What I'm going to talk about today is just about the telesales approach in this business. And before I start this, I say this every single time. If you're doing in person and you're killing it, keep doing that. You don't need to change up anything. You don't need to mess up your momentum, because I was out in the field for 2 years straight. And I don't think there's any better way to sell life insurance than in person. And I think it's a hybrid approach is truly the best approach to take towards this business, not just straight over the phone. I'm sharing that with you guys because someone can hang up on you, someone can block your number real quick, and then you're stuck, you're dead in water. Whereas if you're at the table and they tell you no, you're still sitting at the table, and it gives you an opportunity to learn how to overcome objections. When you do everything over the phone, it's really hard for you to learn how to overcome objections, because one objection, you're done. Your number's blocked. I made it all the way through an application and they had buyer's remorse or something, and they just don't sign the email. Or we get to the banking information and then they just get cold feet and then you get stuck there. So I share that because I'm going to talk about telesales today, but I'm not here to convince you on changing your approach to this business. I'm here to give you some tips and tricks that my agency has utilized and adapt to really crush the telesales approach. When it comes to telesales, there's 3 different types of approaches. There's the one call close, there's Zoom, and then there's live transfers. And I'm going to touch on all 3 of them today. But before I dive into that, I'm going to give you guys some tools that add to your tool belt if you're going to take the telesales approach. I think it's necessary for you to have the work spots discount if you're going to utilize the telesales approach, because you're going to need more leads. If you're going to do telesales, you're going to need more leads and you're going to have to make more dials. You're not going to make less dials or buy less leads doing the telesales approach. You're actually going to need more people to talk to, and you're going to have to spend more time on the phone to actually get the ROI out of your investment. So work spots is going to consistently give you discounts on leads. Right now, it's a 45% off on instant internet life leads. That's almost half off. So you're looking at like $7 a brand new instant internet life lead. If you don't have work spots, you don't have access to that $7 lead. You're paying $11. And when you add that up, that you're going to get way more leads with that discount. And then I think it's super important for you guys to have insurance toolkits. Not a lot of people know about insurance toolkits. My entire agency has insurance toolkits because it's basically a virtual underwriter. So when you're a new agent, or you're in your 6th month, or like my man Marcus said, I need to learn a little bit more about the products, the insurance toolkits is your virtual underwriter. It's insurancetoolkits.com. The discount code for the Family First Life portal is FFL15. I highly suggest that you guys use the discount code if you're going to invest into it, because if you don't, you're going to get a portal with a bunch of carriers that you've never heard of and you don't even know if they're real or not. So the FFL15 gives you the Family First Life portal specifically with our carriers. And then what you can do with it is add conditions and medications, and it'll tell you from cheapest to most expensive in order what product that they can qualify for. So it's really allowed our agents to be confident in knowing what they're doing, even though they don't know the specific underwriting guidelines. There was a time and day where I was utilizing a PDF with a grid sheet, trying to match a condition in a company to try to figure out what product to write. And now we have a service that's $30 a month. So it's not anything crazy. That's $1 a day. It'll pay for itself with one sell. And even for a guy like myself, when I first got it, there was a client that had a stroke 6 months prior to me speaking with him. And I plugged it into the insurance toolkits thinking that I was going to be AIG right away. And I put it in insurance toolkits, and Mutual of Omaha Living Promise Graded popped up. 1, it was $30 cheaper. 2, it was going to pay me more as an agent. So it was a win-win for the client and myself. And I was like, all right, this thing already paid for itself, because it taught me a lesson about underwriting that I didn't know about. And I went 2 years learning underwriting and doing it all on my own off of a little grid sheet. So even myself found value in it very quickly. So then I started sharing it amongst all of our agents. And then I think it's going to be super important for you guys to have some type of power dialer or auto dialer if you're going to do the telesales approach. Manually dialing 500 times in a day sounds like it's impossible. But if you have phone burner, if you have call tools, if you have ringy, you're going to be able to make those 500 dials. It's obtainable using a power dialer. You can sometimes triple the amount of dials that you make by having it. So work spots, insurance toolkits, and some type of auto dialer. Phone burner is great. That's the most well-known one. There's a bunch of training videos, and FFL has a affiliate discount if you guys want to utilize that. If you need it, come up after me and I'll give you the link. But I think that is really important when you're going to do a telesales approach and you're not going to go out on the field, is that you give yourself a minimum goal of what you want to dial in a day. And I recently started saying this in the last couple of weeks, like give yourself daily goals. We all hear at the beginning of the year, like, oh, my 2022 goals. I guarantee you half of you guys in this room don't even remember what your 2022 goals were because you wrote it down on a piece of paper that you lost and you never even re-looked at it. So start having daily goals and then actually start with the week goal, reverse it back to daily goals. And there's power in hitting a goal. Just like when you want to be disciplined, you're like, I'm going to make my bed every single day. It's the same type of concept. You start with little things that you can win, builds the self-confidence in yourself to take the right step forward, even if you don't get the desired results. So what I started preaching is have activity-driven goals instead of result-driven goals, because we can control our activity. What we can't control is our results. And what can happen really quickly is if we don't get the desired results that we're looking for, then we get discouraged. And then that seed of doubt gets built. And then we're watering it and it's growing in the back of our mind, like maybe this isn't it for me, or maybe I should go do something else. Whereas if you just say, I'm going to make 500 dials today, no matter what the results are, I hit 500 dials, it's a win. And I think that's so much more obtainable for agents, especially when you're new, is give yourself a dial goal, because that's what you can control. You can't control the amount of people that pick up the phone. You can't control the amount of people that book an appointment with you. You can't control the amount of people that let you give them a presentation and then present a sale to them. So all of those type of goals, you can be very easily disappointed. Whereas if you give yourself a daily goal of 500 dials in a day, and you don't stop until you hit that goal, then all of a sudden there's self-empowerment in that. And with self-empowerment comes self-confidence. And when self-confidence comes is when you feel like you're on top of the world and you really start to build momentum. I recently had an agent, when I talked about this daily goals type of thing, he said, I'm going to send you my dial tracker every single day. And so the first week, he said, I'm going to make $200 every day. And that's another point I want to talk about. I say 500 because I think that's realistic. If you know that you're not going to dial 500 times in a day, don't make that your goal. Make it a goal that you can hit. So he wanted to start at 200 dials. So for a week straight, he sent me his dial tracker doing $200 a day. And he was like, man, this feels good. Then the next week, we upped it to 250. It's not some crazy lofty goal, but we want to keep going in the right direction. The whole next week, 250, 250, 250, 250, 250. And the results were coming. He was starting to make sales. He was starting to talk to more people on the phone. And then he pushed it to 300. And then the first 2 days, he didn't hit that. And I was like, dude, it's 5 o'clock out in California. Why are you sending me your dial tracker? There's 2 more hours in the day, at least. You're not stopping until you hit the 300. You're lying to yourself. You told yourself you're going to do 300. And then the last 3 days last week, he hit 300. I share that with you guys because you can all do that with the person who brought you in this business. If you need to be held accountable, then tell your manager that you need to be held accountable. We don't know that you need to be held accountable. We don't ask you if you're an accountable type of person typically when we hire you. So I'm just sharing you a little tip that's worked with one of my guys out in California, and he's really feeling the self-confidence building for himself. Now, I think I got this tip from Calvin Wright, which is a Hall of Fame producer. He said that a good pace is 80 to 100 dials in an hour, and he's using phone burner. So if you want to be a Hall of Fame producer, Calvin Wright is making 800 to 100 dials in an hour. I thought that was a great tip to give. So you know a good pace that you're at. $80 to $100 manually dialing, that sounds like it's impossible. So that's why I'm suggesting the phone burner. That's why I'm suggesting the call tools to really give that a shot for yourself. And I think it's super important that you stick to a script. I hear it all the time. Man, what's his script? Man, what's his script? Can I get his script? He's killing it. And that's where new agents and most agents fall into a trap. They think that these magic words that Rob Richmond says about mortgage protection is going to help them start selling like Rob Richmond. It's not the words, it's the structure that is really important about a script. So I'm here to tell you, stick to a script. Just find a person that you idolize or you look up into the business, get their script, and don't ask anybody else for a script. You have to learn the script, the structure of it, to really utilize it to your benefit. Because there's no magic words in there that are going to book you more appointments. All it is the structure and the direction that you're trying to carry the conversation to. And you'll soon learn that there's only a couple points that you got to say, and you can say anything you want in between as long as you lead them through those the different points of the script. So I think it's really important that you stick to one. It's like your cadence. You hear Aaron Rodgers all the time say the same cadence over and over and over. It's the same thing with your phone script. You just got to say it over and over and over, and then it becomes like the back of your hand, and you can speak it in your sleep. Now, this is for one call closes. I'm going to give you guys some power questions when you're doing a one call close. And I think it's the same opener as far as verification. The first part of a phone script is verifying you know who they are. They think you're a telemarketer. You guys have to understand the psychology behind that, because I don't fill out any forms online. I don't know about you guys, but I still get phone calls every single week from telemarketers calling me about my car's extended warranty or my college student loans, and I don't fill out forms. We're contacting form fillers. So imagine the amount of calls that they're getting throughout the week, throughout the day. So you have to separate yourself right from the jump that you're not a telemarketer. If you're new, a little tip I would add is, hey, John, hey, this is Gage. I'm not a telemarketer. You adding that into your script will buy you 3 to 4 to 5 extra seconds on the phone, which if you dial the phone, you understand 3 to 4 to 5 seconds is an eternity, and you can actually get out another sentence in that short amount of time. But you just adding in that you're not a telemarketer will buy you more time on the phone and give you a realistic more shot at getting all the way through the script. But some power questions that I think are super important when you're doing one call closes. The first one is, are you home and sitting somewhere where you can write some things down for me? We have no idea where they're at or what they're doing in the world. If they're driving, if they're at the doctor's, if they're at the grocery store, if they're watching their grandbabies. So I think that's the most important question to ask from the jump is, are you home and you have something that you can write some things down for? Because if they're not home and they don't have something to write down for, the chances of you getting their bank account is very, very slim. You're not going to get their bank account when they're out and about. You're not going to get their bank account when they're at the grocery store. So you have to understand that's the most important question right then and there, to know if you're going to go through the whole entire presentation or if you're going to book an appointment from this phone call. And I'm never too hesitant when they're in the middle of something to book another time to follow up with them and explain that's going to take 10 to 15 minutes. Because the worst thing you can do is just rush through it really, really quick and give them a quote and then they hang up on you. Because that can happen, and it happens often because we get excited when someone picks up the phone and we think that we have a shot and we're just rushing through everything. And when you rush is not when you're going to ever make a sell. You actually have to take your time and explaining that this is way more important than 5 to 10 minutes. So when can we allocate 10 to 15 minutes of focused time towards this information? And so booking another appointment if they're not at home. The next question I think is, do you have a good email if I need to send you over some information? First of all, I think this is a great question to ask, because whenever you talk to your clients about an email, they get really, really excited because they think they're going to get off the phone and you're just going to send them a quote. So I like throwing out email early in my presentation, because then they think that they're going to get off the phone. But really, the reason why we ask, do they have a good email, is understanding that the client is going to be able to have a Mutual of Omaha application that requires an email signature. Or before America had its text signature, it was super important that we understood our client could work their email, go in, click a couple buttons and sign. Now, America's came out with the text signature, which is a great feature, and our agency is transitioned writing a lot more over the phone in America with that text signature. It's super simple. And then, or Aetna has a security question. So we ask that question intentionally to understand the demographic of our client, if they're tech savvy, if they're not tech savvy. Next is, have you been trying to get this set up for a while now, or am I the first person you've been able to talk to about this? The reason this question is significant is because you're identifying a shopper or not. If they're a shopper, you need to figure out what has stopped them from moving forward with the application. So once again, you identify the objection before you get the objection later on. You're trying to pull out every objection as you can from the jump, so then you never have it when you're going in through the meat and potatoes of the application. And then if they say that you're the first person that they've spoken to, say, great, it's your lucky day. I'm an independent broker, so I work with the top 15 companies here in the state. So what that means for you is, instead of you having to go talk to 3, 4, 5 other people, I'll be able to do the shopping around for you, and we'll be able to identify the best prices at the lowest rates for someone of your age and your health. So I think it's really important you ask that question, because you're going to identify a shopper or not. If they say they're a shopper, you say, now, have you been getting declined? Or have you not just found a program that fits your budget? Most of the times it's a program that hasn't fit their budget. But a lot of times too, you'll get people who say, I can't get qualified. So now you know there's a red flag. There's some type of medical condition, or there's some type of something on their record that's stopping them from getting approved. Or maybe they're applying for term insurance when they should be applying for whole life insurance. But once again, you're trying to pull out as much information as you can before you get into the meat and potatoes of the financial inventory sheet. Now, the next question I asked is, do you currently have any active life insurance? And I want to ask that question to identify if they've went through this process or not. So they understand, if they're gonna understand that they're gonna need to give me their social security number. They're gonna give me their banking information. If not, I know I need to address that up front, so you don't get to the social security number or the banking information. They're like, what the hell? I'm not giving you that. So it's, once again, you're trying to overcome all the objections before they come. And then I asked them, are you working full-time or are you retired? I asked this question because I think it's important for you to know if they're on Social Security or if they're working. Most of the times, if they're on Social Security, I ask them, now, are you getting your Social Security on that little green Direct Express card? Some people ask in a different way for the bank information, but I'm assuming that they have a Direct Express card. You're on that little green Direct Express card. No, I got a bank account. No, I get it directly put in there. Now you just identify that they have a bank account inadvertently by assuming that they're getting on the Direct Express card. So that's my power questions. Then I go right into the financial inventory sheet, and I ask every single question on the financial inventory sheet, because every single question is valid on the sheet. And if you skip over one, you literally could be losing out on a fact or a portion of their life that's very important to help you utilize the presentation and the sale that you're trying to make. So that's for one call closes. Those power questions, I think, is super important. Now, if you're booking Zoom appointments, this is what I do. I still run direct mail mortgage protection, but we're doing everything virtually now. And I understood back in the fall when Family First Life rolled out this virtual platform that somebody needed to understand or work it so we could teach our agents. Because if I didn't know how to do it, how the hell could I coach my new agent who wants to do it? So I made that switch. I got out of the field. I just started doing everything over the phone. It took me a good month, guys, to really feel confident in what I was doing and what I was saying. That's why I say going in person, I think, is super important, because I did this for 2 years in person and I struggled for a month trying to transition virtually. So start out in the field or take the hybrid approach. Don't go virtual out the gate. But when I'm booking the Zoom appointment, it's the same script that I normally use. It's Rob Richmond's script verbatim. But when I go to book the appointment, I say, now, John, what they traditionally used to make us do is come out, sit down with your lay eyes. Since this whole COVID crap, we've transitioned to doing everything virtually via Zoom. Are you familiar with this application? Most people, they are familiar with it. You'll get your one-offs. You're like, no, I don't know. Or if they tell me they don't know, I ask them if they have an iPhone. I'll do a FaceTime appointment with them. I think it's super important to put a face to the name, especially with mortgage protection, because you're usually sitting down with a little bit more intelligent individuals, working class. They have life insurance. So it's just a little bit more of a complex sell. So I just want to put a face to a name. But if they say yes, I say, great, what is your email? Once again, I throw out that email thing because then they think I'm just going to throw them over quotes and brochures and everything. And then they give me their email. And I'm telling you guys, the appointment's booked after that. We told them we're doing it on Zoom. They gave me their email. Now it's just figuring out a time that works for the both of us. So I've found that approach being super effective. Immediately after them saying that they know how to work Zoom, I immediately ask them for their email. And then they're giving me their email. And I'm like, okay, great. Now, as far as scheduling goes, and it's less pressure on trying to find a time that works because we're in mutual agreement that we're going to meet on Zoom to book the appointment. Now, let's see. The key thing about Zoom as well that we've been utilizing is we've created a mortgage Zoom presentation. And all it is we've literally took what we would do in home and put it into a PowerPoint presentation. So the first slide is a picture of our license and our information, national producer number, our number. And so then on the first page, they see my license, they take a picture of the license, and I've established that credibility right from the jump. The second page is our carrier sheet. So when I used to go in home, the first thing I do when I sit down at the table is I show them my license. I have them flip it over and see our different carriers that we work with. So I wanted to do the same exact thing in the Zoom presentation. So the first two slides are just credibility. You want to be able to build that credibility from the jump. So then there's not such weird animosity about giving out sensitive information. And then the third page is what are we going to do? So there's no surprises. We're going to run through this financial inventory sheet. After we do that, we're going to do some shopping around. And after we do that, we're going to submit an application to see if we get you medically qualified. So they know on the fourth or third slide what we're doing today. And to me, it's been a very educational approach towards mortgage protection, which I'm a big educator in this business. And I've been as successful as I've been utilizing the educational approach to this business because a lot of people in this industry don't educate their clients. They just throw out a product, they throw out a number, and then they sign up. And as some of you guys, I'm assuming you know, you've run a lot of appointments, there's a lot of bad products out there for the right people, like Rob says. And so I share all this with you guys because you can take the same educational approach that I've taken by explaining term and whole life, by explaining these different ways that the policy is going to work for them, because you're going to separate yourself from the rest. And when you're doing things over the phone, what are you going to do different than the 3 or 4 or 5, 10 other people that they're going to talk to on the phone? Because I hate to say it, they're going to talk to other people. So how are you going to stand out? How are you going to be their guy? You're going to win them over by sharing things that they didn't know about life insurance. You're going to give them things about do your own will if they didn't know about how to set up a will. I always wanted to separate myself from the rest of the competition that would come in behind me or they already sat with. How could I separate myself from the rest? And then where insurance toolkits is really played a big part in our success doing things virtually is once we go through the entire presentation in the financial inventory sheet, we share the screen on the insurance toolkits. So we say that we're brokers, we say that we do business with all these different companies, but a lot of times when I was doing it in person, I show them one company with 3 different prices. We've changed that around and started showing one benefit amount, 3 companies. I wanted to be the broker that I always said I was. And with insurance toolkits, they see a screen with a bunch of different insurance carriers validating that I'm obviously a broker and I have access to all these different companies. So to me, it's played a great advantage knowing that they're dealing with someone who has multiple carriers and multiple products and multiple price points. Go ahead.
Sorry, one question.
You're good.
In insurance tools, usually America is not one of the cheapest.
Correct.
So how are you trying to, explain the benefits that they would have with this other company? that it's not going to be the cheapest one on the list. Usually it's like way down there.
Yep. So it's all about value. And I think we've always been able to describe the value of what Americo can provide for a client pretty well. Now, obviously, you'll get some people who are like, well, that's like the fourth or fifth, highest price. It's like, well, do you go to Walmart and buy great value? You don't always buy the cheapest thing out there. You buy the name brand or the company that you stand behind. So it's just really as an agent, you validating what Americo brings to the table, why you suggest it, do you have it? So for myself, I said, this is the company that I'm with. This is the company that my stepdad got, and 6 months later, he died and they paid out the claim. So I know they pay out their claims. So just validating it in that way, if you have a story to tell, or if you've had an instance where Americo was a benefit to your other clients, you just sell them on the value of it more than anything. But if I'm being honest with you, we don't necessarily always push the product. If I'm being completely honest with you, we've been writing a lot of Aetna, we've been writing a lot of American Amicable. And I think that Americo has value in certain situations, but I'm also not pushing a company or pushing a product. I'm pushing a solution, because solutions stick, sales charge back.
That's good.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, and then what also the advantage of sharing your screen during a Zoom presentation is you can pull up the carrier. They see you log in with your name. They see you start a new application. Now it's not weird when you ask for the social. It's not weird when you ask for the banking, because they see it right on the screen, and you're not making up that you need this information. Go ahead, man.
You mentioned this really awesome consolidated presentation in a PowerPoint.
I got it for you.
Yeah, and I promise you guys, it's nothing spectacular by any means. Like I said, all we did was translate our in-home into a PowerPoint presentation, and we just laid it out to what we're going to do. So then, yeah, exactly. And Michaela crushes it. So I throw her alley-oops all day. I book appointments for Michaela. She closes way higher percentage on Zoom than I do. Now, live transfers. I'm assuming some of you guys may have heard about this, or different companies. There's been of talks, but I will tell you, these leads are for people trying to grow an agency. These leads are for experienced agents, because they're high price calls. They're not cheap by any means. They add up really quickly. But for a guy like myself, I have the ability to pause and start that thing whenever I want to run business, which is an advantage to myself when I'm trying to deal with a bunch of different agents taking their phone calls. And I don't want to run a 6, 7, 8 appointment day out in the field. So it's great for someone like myself. It's great for someone who has insurance experience selling over the phone. I don't recommend it to somebody that's new and has capital, because you're going to blow through your capital pretty freaking quick with it. But some vendors that we utilize is All Web Leads, DataLot, EverQuote are 3 vendors that we utilize. Now, I don't have a bunch of agents doing it anymore, because they realize it starts to add up. So they're diversifying their lead flow. But where it's effective is when you're trying to put up business and you are avoiding booking an appointment, or you're avoiding doing the presentation, because it's a hot lead. The person is looking for insurance. But a guy like myself, I'm usually closing 4 out of 10. And I'm not saying that I'm that great, but that's also not that great of a percentage when you don't have a lot of capital. Now, there's times when I've done 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. There's times I've done 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. But the average is about 4 out of 10 for myself, taking the call and actually closing the call. So the percentage is there if you have the capital, but when you're new, that's something that you want to work towards when you're growing an agency. Not something that I would suggest. But I want to share a little bit how I go through my calls, because this is really all I'm running personally myself. I still have direct mail mortgage that I'm booking, but I book it all for Michaela. So when I start, I say, hey, my name is Gage Peart. I'm the state licensed insurance broker here in Texas. How are you doing today? And I always want to ask them how they're doing, because they think that I'm just going to go straight to the quote. I'm like, no, we're going to actually have a conversation. I'm going to get to know you a little bit here. But the cool news for you, Rob, after they say, you're doing well, great. So the cool news for you, Rob, is I wear 2 hats. The first hat that I wear, I'm a field underwriter. So I'm going to have to ask you some health questions and financial questions, so we can understand what your options are going to be. But the other hat that I wear is I'm a broker. What that means for you is I have access to the top 15 companies here in the state of Texas. So once we go through the health questions, I'm going to transfer your information into my quoting tool here, and we're going to find what the best plan at the lowest rate for someone of your health is. Now, before we get into this, Rob, I just want to ask everybody, what got you looking into life insurance, or what would you like life insurance to do for you, sir? And so,
just experience. Are you role playing with me since you're looking?
You said what?
I thought you were role playing with me.
Yeah, no, well, we can.
Just someone. I just went to my uncle's funeral and saw he didn't have insurance, and that took a toll.
Gotcha. So you want to make sure you're not a burden to your family.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. I'd say 80% of the people that I speak with, they just want to make sure that they're not a burden to their family and their final expenses are covered. The reason you ask that question is because you need to extract the why out of them before you go into anything. You need to understand how you can help them or how you can find the solution for them. When you say, what would you like life insurance to do for you? They can't say, I'm just looking for a quote. That wouldn't make any sense to that question. So I started throwing that question in there to get the final expenses, to cover the mortgage, to have the income replacement. And I always usually say 80% of people I speak with, that's exactly what they're looking for too. Most people want to do what most other people are doing as well. So I think that's super important. And I said, now, do you know how life insurance works? So after I go through extracting the why from them, I say, now, Rob, do you know how life insurance works? This was a very surprising answer to me. And this is when I realized I didn't ask this in the home, but over half of the people that I speak with, they don't know how life insurance works. Or they say, can you educate me? Or can you tell me again how it works? And so this is where I'm bringing the educational approach into the live transfer to separate myself from the 2 or 3 other people that they may have been talking to, or this is the first person they've talked to. Now I'm still bringing that educational approach to them by telling them it's a little bit different than home insurance or car insurance where you can just purchase a policy. You actually have to get medically qualified for this program.
And people don't buy what they don't understand.
Bingo. It's understanding the demographic of the client that you're speaking with too. If you're speaking with someone who has multiple policies and they know exactly what they're looking like, you can literally trim the fat on a lot of this presentation. But if you're dealing with somebody who doesn't know how it works, I know I need to slow down, take my time a little bit and educate them, because if I educate them, then I know I'll win over their trust, which when I win over their trust is when we can actually make a sell. Okay, so I asked that, and then I go right into the medical questions. And so I trimmed the medical questions by just asking, now, have you ever had a heart attack, stroke, or cancer? So those are the 3 knockouts for term. So I want to ask those 3 questions to know if immediately I'm going to show them whole life. And then I just ask them, if they say no, I'm like, okay, great. Now I need diabetes, anxiety, depression, or I need respiratory issues like COPD. I'm fishing out these big medical conditions that will make me look at whole life versus term. I don't ask all the other little ones that are in there just because I'm trying to trim it down and not be this long drawn out phone call. Now I will make sure I get all the medications, because I tell them the more I know up front, the better I can help you, because this toolkit is pretty freaking accurate if you tell me everything that your history is with medical and your prescriptions. So before we get into any type of numbers or anything, I just say, Laura, I just want you to understand the most important thing that I can do here for you today is see if we get you medically qualified. A quote doesn't get you medically qualified. Us submitting an application for coverage will see whether or not this product is the right fit for you. Because not all the time what that quote tool tells me translates into the actual decision of approval or denial. But my job today is make you look as best as possible on paper. We're going to submit the application to the insurance carrier. Sometimes it takes 2 to 3 days. Now, if you're squeaky clean, we could get an instant decision today. And I say that before I give them the numbers, because I revisit the reason why we're having this phone call and the importance of actually submitting an application versus just getting numbers and telling us that they need to think about, because there's nothing to think about until they're actually approved. And you can tell that to them. I need to think about it. Well, sir, with all due respect, there's not a lot to think about at this point in time, because we don't even know if you're medically qualified. That's like saying, I want to get the $1 million house, but you don't know if you can get the loan. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So we at least have to submit the application today to see if this is something that's on the table for you. Now, I emphasize that because especially when you're doing stuff over the phone, you can turn into the professional quote girl or guy. And that's not what you want to do, because you're going to keep your fingers crossed that they call you back a week later, or you got this big, long pending list of people that you need to call back. And then you got your hopes up and they're just going to smash your dreams and hopes. And then you're going to get into this negative mindset. So you want to make sure you establish that you submit an application over the phone before you go into just quoting people and throwing numbers out there. Because once you throw the numbers out there, it's either a yes or no. So I'm trying to hold on to that information as long as I possibly can, build the value, build the trust in myself before I just give them the numbers. Because I promise you, numbers don't excite people, but you can excite people by you being their insurance agent and being their guy for life. Now, what I do after I complete the financial inventory sheet and I tell them about medically qualifying, I'm like, now, Rob, give me 2 to 3 minutes while I transfer this information into my quote tool and see what our options are. And then I'm putting everything into insurance toolkits, and then I hit quote. I don't put in a dollar amount, I hit quote. And then it's going to populate how many different companies that they can medically get qualified for. And I think this is important, especially when you say that you're a broker. I'm like, okay, Rob, so it looks like here we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different quotes coming back for your health and your age. So we got some options, my man. That's good news. Now, I know we talked about you looking at 50,000 in coverage. So let me go ahead and put in 50,000, see who's going to give us the best rates. I want them to psychologically know I'm shopping around for them. So I'm going to name it off. If it's 7 carriers, I've named 15. I'm like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wow, Rob, we got some options. So then they know that they can come back to you and you're their guy. They don't have to go talk to one person to get 1 quote. I have 15 quotes or 12 quotes for them. So then I hit get quote for that dollar amount, and typically it reshuffles in order from cheapest to most expensive. And this is where I think it's super important as well. I would lose control when I give them numbers. So I was like, how can I not lose control and maintain control by delivering these quotes and numbers to them? So I started doing this. I'm like, okay, so it looks like here, Mutual of Omaha is coming back with the best rate here for your age. So at 20 or 50,000 in coverage, Rob, Mutual of Omaha is going to give you it for $67.82. Looks like Transamerica is going to give you that same 50,000 for $69.53. And then Aetna is going to give you the same 50,000 for $73.22. So Rob, it's pretty obvious that Mutual of Omaha is going to give you the best rate for your age and your health. Now the $67.22, is that something you think you can swing, or is that a bit of a stretch? So what I did is I asked an open-ended question. There's only 2 answers. They can swing it or it's a stretch. And no matter what their answer was, I could take back control of the conversation by cutting them off. Let's say they said that, that's a bit of a, hey, Rob, I totally understand. I'm not trying to stretch you out by any means. Now, before we got on the phone here today, you had a dollar range in mind that'd be comfortable for you each and every month. I'm definitely not trying to stretch it by any means. Now, do you have that range, that dollar amount in mind? Oh, I could probably do like $50 a month. Okay, let's see what we can get you for $50. And then I take the benefit amount, and you can actually put in the dollar amount on insurance toolkits. So instead of looking at 50,000, now we're looking at $50 a month. And then it's going to reshuffle in order from the most coverage to the least amount of coverage. Now, if they say that they think it can swing it, no, I think I could swing that. Now, are you sure the $67.29 isn't going to be a stretch for you? Because the worst thing we could do is jump into something that you know is going to be a bit of a stretch and not actually be comfortable for you every month. So that's what an experienced agent is going to do. They're going to challenge the client that this dollar amount is going to work for them. Where the mistake that you can make is you just jump and get excited that they say that they can swing it. You need to challenge them. We're all here to have high persistency and less chargebacks, because chargebacks are absolutely real in this business. You're not going to avoid it. I didn't avoid it. Rob didn't avoid it. Jesse didn't avoid it. Jordan didn't avoid it. Alex didn't avoid it. We all get it. I think I got one this morning. Like it just happens. And so we wanted to challenge them on that dollar amount. And then they say, yeah, I can do that. Okay, great. Just like I said, the most important thing we can do is see if we get you medically qualified. Give me a minute while I get the application pulled up. And I don't even ask them if we're going to do an application. Well, I'm assuming the sell. I told them we're applying from the jump. Now we're to this point. So give me 1 minute while I get the application pulled up. And I go right into filling out the application. But me saying that phrase, do you think you could swing it? Or do you think it's a bit of a stretch? Has helped my ability to maintain the control during that phone call and then not go northeast, south, and west. Because if you just say a dollar amount, then you don't know, the conversation could go any direction and you have no idea where it could go. And a lot of times I would get just a straight hang up. And it's like, I wanted to get an idea on how they were feeling about the price. So when you say, can you swing it or is a bit of a stretch, is a great way to unintentionally get out their feeling of how they're feeling about that price. So that's helped us enormously. I hope you guys have picked up on, 1 or 2 tips to help you make more sales over the phone. Our agency did 950,000 last month, and we're probably doing about 60% of it over the phone. So we've transitioned into doing that a lot. If you guys want, our Zoom is open Monday through Sunday. It's fflenhancers.com. There's power in people. It doesn't matter what team you're on. We love people who are trying to grow. We love people who are looking for help. And I got guys on there who are hungry to help other people because they're aspiring to grow an agency and they may not have a bunch of agents. So you're giving them an opportunity to get better. And I'll leave you guys with this. My business changed when I understood that Jordan wasn't going to lead me to the promised land. Now, I was convinced that Jordan was going to lead me to the promised land, but I was only calling him. I was only getting his opinion. And he's great, I'll admit that. But what you need to understand is there's different perspectives, there's different opinions in this business. So find 2 or 3 other people besides the person who brought you in this business that you can put in your circle, that you can put in your corner, that you can call up after you didn't get a sell and ask them what they would have done differently. What I wasn't confused about is when I got into mortgage protection, I wasn't that good at it. So every single time I didn't make a sell, it stung because it was like $70 a lead or $80 a lead. And I didn't have any money when I first got started in the mortgage. So my ass called Rob, called Jesse, called Jordan in order. Called Rob first, called Jesse, called Jordan. Sometimes I call all 3 of them to hear what they would have said. And a lot of times when you have 4 or 5 or 6 more appointments in the day, that little tip or that little trick that they would have done can help you improve your day from being 0 for 7 or 0 for 8 to being 2 for 8 or 3 for 8 or 4 for 7. But reach out to other people. We're all here to help. And just remember, when I started telling myself that I'm never bothering anybody, when I actually reach out to somebody, I'm helping them become a better leader. I'm helping them become a better trainer, because that's how I looked at it. Anytime someone's agent reached out to me, I looked at it as an opportunity to become a better trainer. I looked at it as an opportunity to become a better leader. So when I did have a big agency, I could be a better leader in training and leading them in the right direction. So I hope that helps, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming out here. This office is here for you guys to utilize. We're here Monday through Friday for the most part, unless some of us are out of town, but utilize this place. This room changed my business when I got my ass out of my apartment and started coming here and getting around Hall of Fame producers. You can do the same. It's a choice. Invest into yourself. Easton Patton, most of you guys probably have heard of him or know him, said he would drive 90 minutes to his office every single dial day. So what is your excuse? Because the guy who's probably top 5 in the company would drive 90 minutes to an office and listen to live dials to put words and word tracks into his brain before he got on the phone. But we appreciate you guys coming out here. We really do.
Thank you.